All right. Welcome back to the African History Network show. Once again, visit our new website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. On the line, we have the author of the groundbreaking book, The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence, which won all type of awards. We want to welcome back to the African History Network show our brother, Dr. David Imhotep. No relation to me. Hotep, brother, how you doing tonight?
Hotep, well, we're not related right now, but we could have been a long time ago, bro.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Well, look, it's good to have you on the show tonight. I know it's the 4th of July. I'm sure you aren't eating ribs or hot dogs and things like that, brother. But, we know a lot of people are doing that right now. But we have some food for the mind tonight. So we just had Dr. Keefer Lorraine on, who's a holistic practitioner. And now we have another doctor on, talking about the African presence in America going back over 50,000 years ago. And I know we've had you on before, and a few times before, and I know you recently won, been given some additional awards, if I remember correctly, because I saw on the cover of the book, it has an emblem talking about a new award that you received. Tell us about that.
Yes, that's a award for International Scholarly Literature Award.
Okay.
And you'll notice that, of course, it didn't come from anywhere in America. It had to be an international award because I'm receiving a lot of pushback from groups in America. I don't want to say any names, but they are, you can imagine they are.
Right.
So, they have a lot of big pushback with my work. But whenever I ask them, what exactly was it? Well, they can't be specific. They're never specific.
Okay. Now, you say you receive a lot of pushback from your book. Now, is this from colleges? Is this from museums? I mean, what is this from, the pushback? What type of institutions are these?
Yeah, I'll just go out. I'll put it right back. I was brought up. They took me up to, invited me up to Boston Channel 5 to do an interview on my book, and I went up there. It didn't cost me a penny. Got up, did a 10, 15-minute interview, and the interviewer loved it. They said, "This is phenomenal. Says, we're gonna have to have you back on a couple more times." Blah 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 blah. So went back home. They said it will be on next week. I look for it that week, or the following week. It never aired. Okay. Yeah. Well, I've got the names of these people, so I'm just going to go out and call them to task. The Washington Post newspaper. They called me. I didn't call them. They called me, and we did a little interview. It was supposed to be a 15-minute interview. It ended up being 45 minutes. And then 2 days later, they called me up. The same person called me up. We did a half-an-hour interview. Was that going to be? I said, they said next week. Look forward to next week. I still haven't seen it in the newspaper. Okay. Let's see. Went to up to D.C. to Smithsonian and showed my book. The First Americans Were African. I went to the new. At that time, I was only 2 years old. The new Museum of the American Indian, and showed my book to some up there, and they said, "What? This is phenomenal." I said, "Wait just there. Let me go get someone." So they, but this was an Indian, a Native American who was all excited, and they took me over to the assistant to the book buyer at the bookstore. There's a big bookstore there in that enclave, and they said, "Oh yes, we must have this. We must have this." I said, "We'll get back with you." And it must have been 2 months. And I'm not a person to push, but I said, "Wait a minute, I haven't heard anything." So I wrote them a scaling letter. I said, "Well, what's going on?" Blah 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 blah. So they wrote me back and says, "Well, your viewpoints don't meet mine, ours at the Smithsonian." And I say, "I don't have viewpoints. I'm just letting you know that your scholars have written in peer-reviewed journal articles. That is not my viewpoint. I'm repeating some information that has been found." And they said, "Well, we don't see eye to eye." So,
and also,
I'm not going to cry about this. I'm just going to keep writing.
Right. Well, also, you're dealing with the evidence as opposed to a viewpoint. You're dealing with the evidence, and your book is backed by eight scholarly articles,
peer-reviewed journal articles.
Peer-reviewed journal articles, right? It's backed by that, which is the height of academia, correct?
Right. See, people don't understand what a journal article is, a peer-reviewed journal article. When you're at a major university and you write a paper on something, you have 10 of your peers, people who are in that field, look over your information and cut out what they don't like, what is not deemed scholarly or whatever, and then rewrite it. So once you go back and rewrite it and you submit it to all 10 of them and they all okay it, then you rewrite the article all together, and then it's peer-reviewed and you can put it in a peer-reviewed journal. That is what a peer-reviewed journal article is. And my book, the thesis of my book, The First Americans Were Africans, is based on those 8 peer-reviewed articles. I'm through.
Based upon those 8 peer-reviewed articles. Okay, absolutely. Now, for those who may not be familiar with Dr. David Imhotep, in most of my, I've done 10 lectures, and in 9 of them I refer to you, pretty much, if I remember correctly. In 9 of them I refer to you. In 2008, Dr. David Imhotep received the world's first PhD in ancient African history from Union University in Cincinnati, Ohio. He has served as president.
It's an accredited university. It's not a Jack-League university.
Right, it's an accredited university. Okay.
Right.
He has served as president of the Egyptology Society at the Miami Museum of Science and Planetarium, and was the founder of ASCAC, Association for the Study of Classical African Civilization in Miami, established in 1991. So the Miami chapter of ASCAC, Dr. David Imhotep was the founder of that. He has been featured in several magazines as the Journal of the Black Studies, entitled The African Aqualithic Period. He's done numerous radio shows, including the African History Network show and Your Voice with Angelo Henderson, as well as Mason in the Afternoon, both on WCHB 1200 AM in Detroit. This book is the first in a series of books designed to cause any books about ancient African history to be rewritten. Okay, so the brother knows his stuff. His book is backed up with 713 footnotes, fairly documenting what he's talking about. So, and I've told you before, when I first found out about your book and started reading it, I said your book has single-handedly destroyed European white supremacy. And this is what people fear. They're afraid of the truth getting out.
Yes, that's it.
So, yes. They're afraid of the truth getting out. Now, one of the things you talk about in your book is how the first Eskimos were black and migrated from Europe west to Canada. So tell us about that.
We are always told that the Native Americans and the Eskimos came from the east, came from the west and Asia.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But we have documented evidence, okay, that they came from the east. They came from, well, of course, this is after, of course, I'm saying that they were black. First Eskimos were black and they were tiny. And if you look up there in the north now, up in Alaska and northern Canada, and even in Greenland, you will see that the Eskimos, even though they're in the cold of 6 months in the dark, and the time it's foggy, or even when it's warmer, it's foggy. They don't get much sunlight, but they still are dark, and they still are short. So where did they come from?
Right.
They came from the Twa and the Anu, who went up into Europe, 45,000 years ago, and they were there a few thousand years, maybe 10, 20,000 years, and then the Ice Age hit again. We're in Ice Age Interstitial, which is a warmer period, but then the cold Ice Age hit, and they got caught up there. They caught up to 30, 40, 50,000 years, and some of them lost their color, but others of them didn't lose the color. Now, who were the ones that didn't lose the color? The ones that did not lose the color, and Dr. Finch who is a medical doctor, has written about this extensively in some of his books. He wrote that the dark people who were near a source of vitamin D, in other words, fresh fish, because they couldn't find, they couldn't find hardly any game because it was in ice. The ones who were near the water, up in Scandinavia and whatnot, they were able to keep their color because of the vitamin D in the fish. So what happened was some of those people were pushed up as it got warmer. They were pushed up farther and farther into the north, and then they went over from Europe into Greenland, from Greenland into Canada into northern parts of Canada, and then over to Alaska. So they migrated from the east to the west instead of what we've been told from the west to the east. And there was a guy named Jorgensen, I think it was. He's a white fellow who wrote a volume, 6 to 11 volumes of an encyclopedia, and the first one brought up this fact, the evidence that these Eskimos were black first, and then when the Vikings come over, they breed with them, and they slowly turn a little lighter and get a little bit taller, but not tall as regular people and not as light as the Caucasians. Take that to the bank.
Wow. And, the great thing about the book is you provide all the sources, things like this, because I'm always leery of books where they don't cite the sources, like when they make a point and don't cite it. See, you have some books where they have the bibliography in the back of the book, and it says chapter 1. It gives you the sources, but it doesn't cite it. It doesn't correlate the source with the statement that they're making.
Let me interrupt you. One thing. I'm sorry. I just found that volume. Here's the first volume of its Early Voyages and Northern Approaches by Trygve J. Olsen, 1000 to 1632. And this is the first of 10 volumes.
Okay, give us the name of that again. Early Voyages. Early
Voyages and Northern Approaches by Trygve J. Olsen, Oleson.
Okay. We can just Google that, Early Voyages and Northern Approaches. Okay. And what were the years again?
1000 to 1632.
1000 to 1632.
White guy. This is a white guy who tells the truth.
Now, is that AD? That's AD, right, or BC?
AD. Yeah, the Vikings were the very first white folks in the Americas were the Vikings. They didn't come over until 900 AD.
Right, exactly. You have Leif Erikson and Eric the Red.
Right.
Because I've read about them. Yes, absolutely. Now, I've heard people, and I was just in a class Tuesday night. I've heard people say that, well, we know African people have been here going back tens of thousands of years. But I've heard people say that African people were here. We were here before we were in Africa.
Here where? Now, here being where?
Here in North America. Today was called the United States.
Okay.
I've heard people say that we were here. We didn't come from Africa. We were already here. We've always been here. We were here before we went into Africa. Now, have you heard that theory before?
That's all it is. It's a theory, and I say, where is the evidence? What they're trying to say is that and with a good heart, is that when all the continents were one, it was called Pangaea.
Yeah, Pangaea. Yes.
And then they started separating. You can very well see that by the way that Africa fits into South America. The Americas fit into Europe very well. But there's one problem with that so-called theory. That is that these continents started splitting 100 million years ago, and they had finished splitting apart 65 million years ago.
Okay, so they finished splitting apart 65 million years ago, right?
Yes, and if there were any mammals on the planet at that time, there were only rodents like mice and rats. Do you understand what I'm saying? The further evidence on that is there are no archaic Homo sapien bones in North, Central, or South America, as such as Homo erectus or Homo habilis or Australopithecus. They're all Homo sapien bones.
Okay,
so
right.
I'm sorry to say, but those theories just do not fit the evidence.
Right, exactly, because they can't provide me any archaeological evidence that predates Dinknesh or Lucy, which is 3.2 million years old, Australopithecus afarensis. They can't provide me any, and I don't think they can provide anything that predates Homo sapiens. Okay, and we're talking about, about 300,000 years old, because we know at least 130,000 years was cut out by the article from the New York Times on Crete, ancient evidence of mariners. You know, so.
Right.
So it sounds good, and usually people who postulate this, oftentimes they're Moors, because some groups of them want to divorce themselves from Africa.
Right. Now, I love the Moors.
Me too.
The Moors,
I know a lot of Moors.
Phenomenal history in Europe, but the problem is that all Moors were African, but the problem herein lies that all Africans were not Moors.
Right, exactly. Moor was a general term used to describe African people. So one could be Moor and still be Wolof. Okay, one could be Moor and still be Yoruba or Igbo, things like this. So it was a general description. Now you have
you know what, brother? That was a white man's description. They called all the Europeans called all black men Moors, because those are the ones that they knew about that came up and routed Spain. So those are the only black folks that they knew about. So anytime they saw a black person, they called him a Moor. That's where that story started.
Yeah, and we just had Professor James Small on, who, you, myself, Professor James Small, and Dr. Leonard Jeffries, we were all together at the ASCAT conference at Howard University in March and had a good discussion. We just had Professor James Small on last Thursday on the African History Network show, and he dealt with the word Moor coming from Maurice, which was a Roman description of African people. Okay, African men.
Go, that's a tough brother. That brother Smalls is a tough brother.
Oh, absolutely, man.
He's right on the money.
Absolutely. So what happens is, and one thing that I try to do in my research is deal with the evidence, and I provide my sources, because there's a lot of misinformation out here, and I know Moors, and we have to study the history of the Moors here in this country, in Spain, Portugal, Crete, Sicily, things like this. But at the same time, we have to deal with the evidence and tell the truth. And oftentimes you'll see different groups of people who want to separate themselves from Africa, even though they're separating themselves with people that look just like them. I just don't understand it. But but one thing
it's on a misunderstanding, that people took to the bank.
Yes. Well, one thing that I say, brother, I said if we disagree, let's disagree based upon facts and evidence, not the fact that you don't want to deal with the evidence.
Right.
So this is something that we have to understand. Okay, we're going to go to the phone lines in just a minute. We have a call. We have a call from the 313 and a call from the 276. The call-in number is area code 914-338-1375. Press the number 1 key to put you in queue, so to bring you on the air. You can talk to Dr. David Imhotep, the author of The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. Order your copy today. Order it while we're on the air. Go to historictruth.info. Historictruth.info. You can order the book directly from the brother, okay? We have to support this. Now, contrary to popular belief, now you correct me if I'm wrong, brother, but this is how I haven't written the book yet. One is I'm probably write one in the next year. I already know what it is. I already have all the information. I don't have to do more research. The research is already done, because I have 15 hours of presentation backed up by over 100 articles. So the research is already done. But from my understanding of this, when brothers like yourself and Runoko Rashidi and people like this, when you all write books, you don't get like $1 million signing bonus from Random House or something like that, and they don't just fly you around the country, doing book signings at, Borders bookstores or Walden's Books, Barnes and Nobles, things like this. From my understanding, you have to finance this out of your own pocket. Is that how it works?
That's how it works. You know, there's a war on against black bookstores and HBCU. Yes. Okay, historically black colleges and universities. There's a war on. Yeah. It's a silent war. They are getting rid of most of the black bookstores in America are gone. 80 to 90% of the black bookstores that were here 15, 20 years ago have gone out of business. Okay?
You're right about that.
And also many black HBCUs. Let's take one where I just spoke a while ago at West Virginia State University, and Institute, which is really Charleston, West Virginia. That used to be a phenomenal institution where Carnegie Woodson was and a couple of the other great black writers. And now you go up there today, and it's only 15% black. The state went in and poured all this money into it, and these black folks, unbeknownst to them, thought that they were just being nice people. And when they finished pouring all that money into it, they said, "Oh, by the way, we're gonna make a few changes around here." And many of the black professors were gone, and that's when the white folks came in and took over. Now, if that's wrong, please someone correct me with facts. But I just left there last two weekends ago, and I'll be going there again this Saturday, this Sunday coming, studying with the Dogon. There's a Dogon school up there where I'm taking some classes, because you see, when you get up to a certain point in black history, you have to continue to study, to continue to sharpen your sword so that it doesn't get rusty, because you will be challenged over and over by white folks and some black folks.
Exactly. Because it totally contradicts what they've been taught. And, unfortunately, what European white supremacy is built upon a falsehood, is built upon a lie. And then, what I explain to people, European white supremacy is like the Wizard of Oz, okay? Now, if you saw the movie The Wizard of Oz, and I'm sure all the listeners have seen this movie, Dorothy the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, and the Cowardly Lion, they're going down the yellow brick road to find the Wizard of Oz, who's supposed to be all-knowing, all-powerful. Okay, right. So Dorothy wants to go home. The Tin Man wants a heart. The Scarecrow wants a brain. The Cowardly Lion wants courage. They get to the wizard. They see this big person. They see this big image of a person with a deep voice, steam coming from it, things like this. It looks all powerful. Okay. Toto goes around to the side, pulls back the sheet, and we find a midget manipulating technology. Okay, projecting itself to be much more powerful, much larger than it is. Then they find out that everything that they were looking for, it was already in them. They just didn't know it. Okay, the Scarecrow had a brain. He had used it. He just didn't know it. The Cowardly Lion displayed courage, but he didn't know it. The Tin Man had a heart, but he didn't know it. And Dorothy had the ability to go home anytime she wanted to by clicking her heels 3 times. So everything that we're looking for is already inside of us. We're looking, European white supremacy projects itself and uses technology, uses Hollyweird. Some people call it Hollywood. I call it Hollyweird. They use that to project themselves to be much larger, much more powerful than they are. And then when we buy into it, we make them more powerful than they actually are. But everything we need is already inside of us. We just need somebody to bring it out of us. Okay?
And if I may, much of that technology they use was invented by black folks that was stolen from them.
Yes, exactly. So these are things that people have to understand. Okay, let's go to the phone lines. Let's go to the 313. Call in 313. Tell us your name and where you're calling from. Call in 313. Yo, are you on the air? Are you listening? Okay, they must be moving around. All right. Sound like they're fighting over there or something. I don't know. Okay, call in 276. Tell us your name, where you're calling from.
This is Kamal at Jaheed Show. I'm calling from Mounds, Virginia.
Hey, Brother Kamal. How you doing, brother?
Pretty good. I was laughing at you when you mentioned the Wizard of Oz because our stories and everything. If you look at the heart, the brain, and courage, those match the three major chakras. The first chakra, which is tied to survival and also tied to courage. The fourth chakra, which is the heart, and the brain is tied into the seventh chakra, and also the sixth chakra, which is so-called third eye or first eye, whatever you want to call it, and the brain is also within the seventh chakra, which is where Jesus Christ and all the so-called holy people get the concept of the halo from. But that's not the reason I called, but I had to say that. I just called to give Dr. David Imhotep encouragement because his work has greatly assisted me in my studies of Native Americans and Africans. And Alvin Van Serma, he dealt with the exact same thing from these fools who parade as academicians. And I know this personally, this is not suicide, this is not something I hear somebody say, because I used to call him on the phone personally. And I just called to applaud him and to keep up the good work. And just forget the naysayers. Unless they come with proof, forget the naysayers. Have a good night in hotel.
Okay, brother. Hotep, brother Kamar.
You know, in a sport, you can't have a sport unless you have someone coming against you. So it's okay, I welcome them, but I just wish I could get a little help from the black folks in support.
Absolutely, absolutely. Okay, brother Kamar, thanks for calling in. Okay.
All right.
Now, brother Imhotep, now what type of support do you need?
We're talking about folks not just supporting me, but supporting us. You know, going to the black HBCUs to go to school instead of the big white institutions who really don't want you there, who are really not happy you're there, who make it hard for you to, and I'm not saying all of them, and especially not all of the teachers, but as a whole, and I went to one, I won't say the name of it, I played football for them, for two different ones. But I had a few great teachers, and I had a few nice white friends, but I'll tell you, there is a brick wall that you hit in academia, and it's at the master's and PhD level. They don't want you there. Yeah, you go to a black school. I mean, you know, before integration, which was the worst thing to ever happen to the black man and woman in the United States, integration, because you had all of the best black teachers at black schools and all of the best students at the black schools, and they were turning out incredible people. And there was some train of thought that they really wanted to do the integration so they could dilute the mind space, because there's a lot to be said about teachers who love you. You can feel when they love you, and you can feel when they're really not for you. So it's hard for some kids to go through that, and many of them drop out. Look at the dropout rates today in high school. In Baltimore, it's 7 out of 10, where I'm from. 7 out of 10 kids are dropping out of high school before they go finish high school, let alone go to college. It's amazing what's happening with our folks. So we have to really look around and say what's really happening. Then we'll say, well, we'll get a little minimum wage job. I can make it. Well, guess what? Not anymore. I'll blow Espanol. Nothing against the Spanish people who are part black anyway. At least half black, maybe 7/10 black. Our brothers and sisters from the other places that come in, they are the new Negroes. So where are you? Out in the cold.
Well, this is what Dr. Carl Anderson has been trying to tell us for 20 years. He said you're going to be overrun with immigrants. Okay, he's been trying to tell us that for 20 years, and unfortunately, many of our Negro leaders and civil rights superstars are not listening to this, and they think that it's a win to have the immigration, the ruling from the Supreme Court on immigration, things like this. Now, African Americans have already dropped down from number 2 population in this country to number 3. The next one, the ones that are going to kick you down to number 4 are Asians, and Asians are not playing games. They're coming to kick everybody's ass, and people just do not understand what's going on. The handwriting's on the wall. Unfortunately, we are illiterate. we do not understand what's going on, man. And they're allowing these other immigrants to come into the country so they don't have to deal with African issues. They don't want to deal with you. They since the end of slavery, when you look at the creation of the eugenics movement, they've been trying to figure out what to do with these millions of African people that we no longer have a use for. They don't have a use for our labor. Marcus Garvey was allowed to
drive today. They would give them scholarships to Marcus Garvey to get us back to go to Africa, because they don't have any. You know, many of them don't have any. Not many. Some of them don't have any use for us anymore. You know, other than in sports and their boxing, you know, and things of that nature.
Absolutely, and that's short-lived, because and what we have to understand is we have to create our own employment opportunities. Okay, it's not going to come from Washington. If you know, many people now. I read the American Jobs Recovery Act, the jobs bill that President Obama was trying to get pushed. He was going to create about 2 million jobs. There were some good things in there. But my thing is, well, wait a second. If about 60% of the U.S. population are European Americans, 14.1% are African Americans, who do you think is going to get the majority of these jobs if that bill even went through? Who do you think is going to get the majority of them? So why are we jumping up and down thinking that this is going to be like the answer to our problems, and they're going to get the majority of the jobs? When he talks about 35,000 schools being renovated, who do you think is going to get most of those construction contracts?
No.
See, unfortunately, you know, Dr. Clark said it best. We don't understand the difference between ceremony and substance. But go ahead, brother.
Yeah. You hit it right, you nail right on the head, because when you look out into America now, if you put all of the so-called minorities together, they outnumber white folks, and they saw that in this last election. There were more non-whites that voted than whites, and that scared the hell out of some of the ones that had brains. But you still have the people like the Tea Party, you know, and that fool who's on Rush Limbaugh and the rest of those boys. They are still going the same way that these new conservatives are telling them don't go because we can't win that war.
Right, exactly. So they're going to have an eternal war, man, and they're going to have an internal war in the Republican Party, man. I think they're going to implode on themselves. Let's see. We'll go to the 619 in just a minute here. Now, you also talk about how the first leprechauns were Africans as well. Let's talk about that, because when we see, you know, Lucky Charms, the cereal that's magically delicious, we see Europeans. When we see cartoons about, you know, the leprechauns, they're Europeans. When we look at the emblem of the Boston Celtics, the National Basketball Association team, that's Europeans. So what type of documentation and evidence do you have for leprechauns, the first leprechauns being black Africans?
There's more evidence of the leprechauns and the short people in the British Isles than there is in known evidence, I would say, that there is in any other part of the world combined. You go, well, first of all, you were talking about Stonehenge. Who do you think built Stonehenge back in 15,000, 20,000 years ago? First of all, there were no white folks on the planet, according to a wonderful, beautiful white brother by the name of Carvella what is his name? I have it right here.
What?
I'm getting it right here. I can't remember his name. Okay, his name is Carvella Sforza. He wrote The History and the Geography of Human Genes. He single-handedly started the World Genome Project back in the 1950s, and it didn't take hold until 40 years later. He was fighting for it, and finally, 40 years later, he got this group finally together and financed. They went around the world, took 100,000 samples of people's cheek cells, and he found that the first people on the planet were black, of course, and they were from Africa, and that there was not, on page 145 of this 1,000-page textbook, 1,000 pages. You think my think my dissertation, which is 450 pages or something, or you think with my book, The First Americans Are African, that's over 240 pages is something? No, nothing compared to this eminent scientist. And he says on page 145 that there was no white-skinned DNA genetically proven. There was no white skin before 3000 BC. I didn't say that.
Okay.
Malcolm X didn't say it. Stokely Carmichael didn't say it. A preeminent white scientist said that. But you will never see that in the news. You'll never see it in a school. You'll never hear anyone say that out in public. Why? There's no problem with that. With our human family comes in a lot of colors and sizes and shapes, and personalities. But why is it that some of them are ashamed of their whiteness, and they try to make us be ashamed of our blackness as a psychological dupe?
Exactly.
You know,
now,
so it's really not necessary. Anyway, getting back to this, the question was
what page? What page was that on? That you said
145.
145. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so if you go into these places in Europe, in England, you go to the pubs and different things and ask them, you know, who built those old monuments? Who built the oldest castles? Who built the old churches? Okay, who built the wall? You heard about the wall that the Romans built to keep the bad people out from the north? Who built those walls? They were captured. Short Africans who were the metal workers and the stone workers. There's also evidence, and this is way across the world, that there's also evidence that the Great Wall of China was also built by the stone workers, the short Asians, the first Asians who were black. Okay, this goes all over the world. But coming back to England, they have different synonyms for leprechauns. They call them short people, little ones, wizards, fairies, leprechauns, little green men, but also they call them brownies. Brownies because of their skin. They built Stonehenge. They built that wall. They built the dome. Oh, this is the greatest thing, is the little dome homes or mounds, okay? Mounds. There are 4 or 5 different types of mounds that we found in Europe and North America and Canada. But they've written a book. Here's another book I'm going to pull out. It's called The Illustrated Encyclopedia of Native Americans, Mounds and Earthworks. And this is by a good brother, friend of mine, Dr. Gregory Little, who did one of the endorsements in my book, The First Americans Were Africans. And he covered 4 different types of 5 different kinds of mounds. There's burial mounds. There's animal effigy mounds. There are mounds that the people used to build near rivers so they could go up on them in the springtime when there were floods. There were other ones where they had trading posts up on mounds. But there was one mound that he did not cover, and that is the domicile mounds, the homes that these ancient people built that were mounds. They said that how these short Africans would run into, they would chase them, and they would disappear into the earth, and they couldn't find them. That's because they ran into their mounds. Now, some of the bigger mounds, and the way they built them was they didn't go into a hill and dig out the hill and bring all the dirt out of the hill and make it like a mine. Okay, they built it from scratch. It was a flat piece of land, and they would take gigantic megalithic stones, some of them 15, 20, 30 tons each, and they would make a skeleton out of a skeleton home out of that, and then they would pour these gigantic earthworks over top of them, and those would be the mounds. Now, they did that in Europe because they weren't used to the cold, and when you have all of that earth over top of you, it works as an incredible insulator. They were warm in the winter, and they were cool in the summer. Wow. The mounds are all over, not just England, but Europe. Much of Europe has been flattened, but in England, some of these mounds can still be seen. You can see them in Scandinavia. You can also see them as they moved over into Greenland. You can see them still you can see them in Canada, but there are very few of them left. There used to be 1 million in this guy, I just quoted you of his book, Dr. Gregory Little, has a map of of America that is in my book. I got the permission to use that page, and it shows all of the mounds and mound complex in the eastern United States, from Canada to Texas, from the Mississippi to the Atlantic Ocean. And there used to be 1 million mounds, but they're now just about 100,000. There's still around 100,000 left, but you never know them because most of them look like hills. That's really something.
Right, exactly.
And they're in every state of the United States except for 2, Canada, and Alaska, and over in Hawaii. So this is why we have so much information about these people in England who had confrontations on very late with these short people, short black Africans.
And Alaska and Hawaii, they don't have mounds, is it because they are not connected physically to this landmass known as North America? Is that why that there are no mounds there?
That is correct. But the Hawaiian Islands were, you know how they say the king of, King Kamehameha. If anyone knows the
King
history,
Kamehameha.
and I visited Hawaii just to find out something about. I heard short people had been over there. King Kamehameha and those big boys. King Kamehameha was 7'5" or 8 feet tall, and these other big Hawaiians, they show them as the first Hawaiians. No, they were not the first. And they say when they got there, the little people were there. And
that's the Twana I knew.
Yeah, the Anu and the Twa, they were there, and they built all of the stone structures there were, because the Hawaiians did not build in stone. The modern-day Hawaiians, their ancestors did not. And when the white folks got there to Hawaii, the furthest island was Kauai, and they still did a census, and they still found on the island of Kauai 65 small black people. When the whites started moving out there, far before they took over the Hawaiian Islands, there started being some miscegenating, and some of the black ladies liked these little short guys, and short guys started having babies with them. And this one chief, the small chief, saw that what was happening, and in one night he called all of his people together, said, "Pack your stuff, we're leaving." And they went. We think they went to the Philippines, those places, and became the Negritos. But a few
how long ago did this happen?
Oh boy, that was just as the whites had taken over the Hawaiian Islands in 1800s.
Okay, 1800s. Okay. All right. Okay, we got a call here from the 619. Let's get this in quickly. Calling the 619. Tell us your name, where you're calling from.
This is C. Tisdale out of California.
Okay, what's your name, brother?
Just C. Tisdale.
Okay. All right.
C. Tisdale out of California. Got a question for you.
Go ahead.
Professor David Imhotep. Since you're getting a lot of pushback from Europeans about your work and you've validated everything, I mean, why can't we just have an all-out debate? They're scholars, anti-scholars. I mean, I pretty much know what the answer is going to be. But this would be something good for young people, because a lot of young people don't, really not into the history that they should be. I mean, Sheikh Anta Diop and Theophilo Banga, they had their debates. That was hands down. They put that to rest. Dr. Clark and Ben have been debating people for years. But to have a 21st century with the information that you have would definitely be something good for young folks to ponder. Put this on something like PBS and let Gwen Ifill narrate the show. I mean, it's just something that I think that would be especially for the 21st century. You could sponsor an HBCU and just get the young folks involved, just to get them thinking. And because we got all the time,
right.
we got Runoko Rashidi, we got Cabernet, we got
right.
Tony Brada. We could bring people we could bring some serious scholars to the table.
Right. Brother David Imhotep, you want to respond to that?
Yeah, first of all, brother, you have a brilliant mind, but I must say that there's nothing new under the sun. I contacted John Anthony West. Y'all know of John Anthony West? John Anthony West is a white fella who did the Mysteries of the Sphinx series back in the 1980s. Okay? And he's the one that went over there, and some of his boys found that the Sphinx was far older than they say it is now. And it's an African face. All right. Now he didn't really push that real much, but one of his people saw it, and he just let him go by with it because he's not crazy about it. But so I approached him and I said, "Look, man," I said, "we can make some money together. White folks they can have disagreements, but they can get together and make money.
Right.
So I said, look, let's do a lecture series going around to all the black colleges, and then we can go around to all the white colleges, and we can have debates. You and Dr. Chalk, okay, and I'll bring Dr. Clyde Winters, who is a brilliant brother, who I won't go into his history while he's not out there now, but black folks broke his heart. He's a tremendous scholar, but he's done, and he just writes scholarly articles for different journals and whatnot. He does have a few. He has lately put a few books out, and he's coming out now. But that is another brilliant. Anyway, I approached Anthony West to do that, and he said, "Well, let me look at it." And about a week later, he called me back and says, "No, I don't think we better do that. If we do one, then it'll go on to the news, and everyone will know about it." That is the biggest hogwash in the world. That would be a phenomenal show, and I put that out there.
What did he say the reason why? Why did he say he didn't want to do it? What was the excuse?
Oh, the excuse was, he said, once we did it, newspapers would cover it, and it would be old news. But newspapers don't cover anything but one or two snippets of what went on, and then they go to the next story. They're not going to be there and give us the same news story for 2 hours of debate. You see what I mean?
Exactly.
So that was garbage.
Yeah, but Imhotep, why not? I understand what you're saying. Why not just put the debate on with you and the scholars? You still, just like Gil Noble did with Like It Is with Ben. He put the information out there. We don't have to wait for people to really challenge us. If you put the information out there, they will come. Believe me, they will come.
Right.
That's what I've been trying to do for years, put the information. But they blocked it.
What happened with Dr. Ben on Gil Noble is Dr. Ben was dealing with, like, the history of Judaism, okay? Yeah. And it was just Dr. Ben and Gil Noble. So Gil Noble, after the show, he gets responses from the ADL, Anti-Defamation League, things like this, saying that what Dr. Ben was saying was inaccurate, things like that. So then the next show, he brings on this Jewish rabbi, this European Jewish rabbi, and who was disagreeing with Dr. Ben was saying, and then they were debating, okay, and Dr. Ben ate him up. So when now this is something, if you wanted, I'm not really telling you what to do, Dr. David Imhotep, I'm just giving you suggestions. So if you go on, I think first and foremost we need to get you on shows, on TV One, things like that. We need to get you on shows, because then if people object, then we say, well, why don't you come on the show and present your information? He'll present his information and facts and evidence, and we'll let the documentation. We'll let the documentation.
That's a good idea right there, Michael. Especially with TV One, that's a good idea.
TV One is owned by who? Kathy Hughes, right?
Well,
Dorothy Hughes.
Well, Kathy Hughes, but it's a partnership like with Comcast. Comcast owns part of it. Yeah, go ahead.
I've already been to the wonderful Kathy Hughes, Dr. Hughes, who was phenomenal, and we did already get a interview with them on her radio, on Radio One, and it was supposed to be an hour, and I did that, and we had so many questions that they bumped the next person, and we were on 2 hours. They said, "Oh, come back! You got to come back every month." And this is our black folks who said that on the air, and I have not been back every month. I didn't even get a copy of my show.
Right. Well, when I'm on,
unfortunately, that didn't happen. Wonderful show. Great people. Great Kathy Hughes, phenomenal business lady. The interview was phenomenal, but I didn't come back. Now I wonder why that was. I have no idea.
Let me ask you a question.
If we can't get that type of information out there, we're getting that kind of pushback. Then, okay, we got all the books. We got Michael Imhotep's show here on online. If we can't get something like that, then, I mean, what are we talking about? We're talking about immigrants coming over. They've already taken over. All right? I mean, we're competing with everybody as it is. It's a dog-eat-dog world out there. Everybody has to take care of their own business, do what they have to do. But if we can't get information like this on, which is simple to me, because we're getting pushback, then where are we going to be in the next century? And the next, and the next. We have to start somewhere. We have to, I mean, that's all I'm saying. We have to start somewhere.
Right.
Somebody has to be willing to put this information on. Brother, you've done a lot of work, David Imhotep. You've done a lot of work. If you want to, hey, debate Henry Louis Skip the Gates truth.
Oh, well, I'd love to get a piece of that.
Debate him.
Yeah.
I mean, because he represents another.
Or Michael Dyson.
Yeah.
Yeah, Michael Eric Dyson, yeah.
Because, you know, Skip, Henry Louis is going to represent his people, so you don't even have to go with the white scholars. Just get Henry Gates.
I mean, love that. You know what?
Because, you know, he went after John Henry Clark and called those guys pseudo-scholars, the pedophilia pseudo-scholars, and Ben and Dr. Clark responded to that and came back with a rebuttal. So get Gates on. I mean, get Gates on, because he has a big following. That right there would even be better.
Michael, that's an idea, man. You got the forum.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
and TV would even be better. But you start out with radio, and Michael, you hear the fire in this, brother. Not just fire, but you hear the brains behind that and his thought process.
Oh, yeah.
This is the type of brother start something like that.
But see, I'm thinking, because I listen to Michael's show all the time, so I get ideas when he's talking. Because I know what Michael's trying to do. He's pushing it, and we're trying to keep him on by buying tapes and so forth and so on. But I'm hearing all these ideas, and he brings on all these scholars. But we have to, our generation, we have to push this and show the young folks, say, hey, you know, we need to get behind this. Just like they got behind Obama, all right? They can get behind something like this, intelligent. Because you just had a graduation from Morehouse colleges where Obama went down there and he didn't give the kind of commencement that I thought he should have gave. He pretty much tore those brothers down. I mean, he didn't uplift them. He pretty much tore them down. I read the whole speech.
Yeah, isn't that something?
Yeah, that's something. So having something like this with what you're doing, and hell, you can get Michael Imhotep to narrate the thing. I mean, we can really push this thing.
Yep.
Yeah, moderate.
Exactly.
But I'm gonna go on and let you guys go, and you can discuss that a little bit more.
Okay.
Hey, Michael, you know, this is why they say that what's his name? Who was trying to buy Bill Cosby? Remember Bill Cosby was trying to buy a TV network?
Yeah,
and he had the money, and he was about to close the deal, and they kept telling him, "Don't do that, don't do that."
Right.
Finally, you see someone put a hit on his son and killed his son gangster style.
Right.
And they said, you keep trying to get this and buy this, well, you know that'll happen to other members of your family. This is how they work. You know, but we gotta be strong in that. We gotta not quit. We gotta keep going. We gotta do. The time is now to do what this brother said. We gotta get on television. You know, radio first, of course, but we gotta do TV and movies and documentaries.
Exactly.
Like this brother was
put that information out.
He's got the kind of fire and the kind of youth, and I push that out there, youth, and the kind of fresh young ideas who could get us out there, because we're already doing something full time. Maybe he has some spare time, or some other people can start to work on that and get us up there. We can't do everything, Michael. You know what I'm talking about, man. You are, every minute of your day is planned out. Same with mine. There's not enough hours in the day, man.
Absolutely.
So we need people like him to help us get out there. We can't do everything.
Yeah, absolutely. We need,
we're putting a plea out there to all of you. Get us on to something like this. We will all win.
Absolutely. Let's try to squeeze this last call in from the 313. Caller from the 313. Go ahead and tell us your name, where you're calling from. Calling 313-588. Okay. All right, they're just listening. Okay. Now, I know Saturday, July 13th, you're going to be in St. Louis. The New African Paradigm Study Group is bringing you in to deal with your do a presentation, The First Americans with Africans Documented Evidence. Now, this is taking place at Better Family Life Cultural, Educational, and Business Center, located at 5415 Page Boulevard in St. Louis, Missouri. 5415 Page Boulevard, St. Louis, Missouri. Doors open at 3 p.m. Lecture starts at 3:30 p.m. Ticket price is $15 donation in advance, $20 at the door. We're posting the event invite on our like page, the African History Network, right now. And I'll be there as well as a vendor. If they want me to say a few words, I will. They brought me in back in February with Dr. Layla Africa to do a lecture. But tell us briefly, what are you going to talk about, and why should the family in St. Louis come out and see this presentation, brother?
Well, I'll be talking about some of the things that we have been discussed, and some other things, some new things that I have not discussed in any of my lectures. Some new, a little bit of new information. I'm not going to tip my hat on it either, but it's
okay, no problem.
It'll blow their minds, when they'll come out. But it'll be all of this. And St. Louis is right near the remnants of the largest mound in North America called Cahokia. And people in St. Louis, 99% of them don't even know about it. The largest Indian mound used to be large as one of the pyramids. They cut about half of it down, but some of it is still left. It's one of the remnants of Moundsville. They had a great big wall around it and had 120 other mounds there. But this is the largest mound still in the Americas. It's Cahokia, and it's right near St. Louis. And we're going to visit that when we go there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, for more information, people can call for tickets. Call Brother James Stewart at 618-977-8191, 618-977-8191, or Greg Harris at 314-877-9252, 314-877-9252. Check with them on vendor space. Also, the African History Network will be a vendor there. And Saturday, July 27th, Dr. David Imhotep makes his much-requested return to Detroit. He'll be at Nandy's Knowledge Cafe along with myself, 2 p.m. to 8 p.m., Nandy's Knowledge Cafe, Saturday, July 27th, and he'll deal with the First Americans with Africans Documented Evidence Part 2, and I'll deal with great African women in history, the mothers of civilization. You don't want to miss this. For more information, call 313-462-0003, 313-462-0003, or visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. And tickets are available now. You'll be able to purchase tickets online starting Friday, starting tomorrow, and when I'm at the East Meets West Holistic Fair Saturday, July 6th, with Dr. Keefer Lorraine, I'll have tickets with me, so you can purchase tickets there. Come to our booth Saturday, July 6th in Detroit, and we'll have tickets there also. So you definitely want to come out to this. He's going to blow you away. Now, you're going to do a slideshow presentation, right, brother, in Detroit and also in St. Louis, right?
Yes, sir. That's what I always do, slide presentations, go with my speech.
Okay. And about how many slides do you have?
About 150.
About 150 slides. So this brother's going to blow you away. He's going to bring the evidence, the documentation, and that's what we need. Proper documentation ends all conversation. All right, brother. Well, look, it's great having you on. We don't want to hold you too long. We're going to have to bring you back on soon. It's always a pleasure talking to you. And once again, tell people if they want to bring you in for a lecture or something like that, how can people get in contact with you?
Okay, there are a couple ways. If you can't remember anything else, you remember my name, David Imhotep. You can Google my name, and under David Imhotep, you'll find my website, which is harder to remember, and that is historictruth.info. That's my website, historic, HISTORIC, truth, one word, .info. That's how you can find me. Or if you forget all of that, just call up Michael. Michael will let you know how to get in touch with me. By the way, Michael, call me at your break.
Yes. You said what?
Call me at your break.
Oh, okay, I will, brother. All right. And let's see. Okay, well, that's going to do it, brother. It's great to have you on, and we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Great to hear about Big Mike. And people, please support this brother. He is doing something that most other brothers are not doing and that is he's not only doing a show, but he goes all around the country. He speaks, he markets. Please watch him when he is marketing, and you can learn how to run your own business, start your own business. Please, he does things that are incredible. He's the only reason we're on tonight. So please support this brother. Listen to him and pass the word about this great brother. Take care, Mike.
Oh, thank you, brother. Okay, Hotep, peace. All right, family, that was Dr. David Imhotep, author of The First Americans Were Africans, Documented Evidence. Visit his website, historictruth.info, historictruth.info. You can purchase the book right there as well. It's also available on Amazon.com, but buy directly from the brother. Now, if he's out of the book and he directs you to Amazon, that's fine, but buy directly from him because it's more profitable for him when you do that, and that helps to keep him going because he doesn't, when he writes a book, they don't have him on Good Morning America being interviewed by Robin Roberts or George Stephanopoulos. He's not going to be on the Tonight Show with Jay Leno talking about the book and things like that. So, we really rely on our people to help support this type of effort. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be back in a few minutes. You listen to the African History Network show. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. When we come back, you can give us a call, 914-338-1375, 914-338-1375. We can talk about the article dealing with the Trayvon Martin case, dealing with Rachel Gentile, and how African Americans were making fun of her complexion, the way she talks, her weight, things of this nature. And what a lot of people did not know is that her father is Dominican and her mother is Haitian, and she actually speaks 3 languages. She speaks Spanish, Creole, and English. Okay, so we'll talk about that, and then we'll also talk about President Obama's recent visit to Senegal and how the president of Senegal stood up to him on same-sex marriage as well. Interesting article from New York Times. We have it posted on our Facebook-like page, The African History Network. If you haven't liked us yet, do it today. And the name of this article is Senegal Cheers Its President for Standing Up to Obama on Same-Sex Marriage. Okay, we'll be back in a few minutes. You listen to the African History Network show.